Hey everyone, in today's lesson I would like to make a review on how to replace low-res or proxy geometry that's been emitted in a number of frames during the simulation onto a high-res one. So the basic workflow whenever you do a rigid body simulation, you have in your scene uh, some geometry to simulate, then you break it, or create some proxies, and then you send it to your simulation, and afterwards you simply replace the high res one with the low res. So I was thinking, like, what if I have a randomly emitted geometry, and how could I copy or replace the the low res ones onto a high res. So here I have a small setup where we have four types of geometry, and each one with geometry has its name attribute and some ID attribute. Then we are meshing low res. We have a low res one and a high res one, and simply copying that name attribute, the same name attribute that they both have. So here we have a high res geometry merged all together, and the low res one which is sent to our simulation, And here's the distribution points that we created. We have sphere, some manipulations, and I added a sort with a shift method, and an offset, which is a $F expression that will allow me to have a random geometry onto the points. And then we add some noise, some orientation, scale, and I've added some ID attributes to the point in case I will need them. So here's the for each setup where I'll use a point, and I would like to copy one of the four geometries onto each point, and I will use a metadata of the for each setup, which will help me to distribute the geometry onto the point. So here I have some additional attributes onto on our metadata that I will use in the switch node. So I'm creating a spare input where I copy my metadata simply by drag and drop, and then in the input I will use a detail expression, whereas -1 is our spare input iteration that the metadata has, and I would like to divide it by 4 because we have the 4 geometry in total. Okay, and then we have our geometry copied onto the point. Then I'm promoting my name attribute onto primitives, and then assemble, create a packed geometry, and in the end I have randomly created geometry. And then I'm using the delete node with this expression that will delete each frame only one geometry. But since I've inverted the method, it will keep one but delete the others. Okay. Also, I'm creating an age attribute and the life attribute. I will show you in a minute why. And here we have our output that we'll use, that we will import to our .NET. So into our .NET, we have a multi-solver where we're creating or importing a geometry from the subsolver, and then using a rigid body solver to simulate it. So in the subsolver, here I'm importing that null geometry that has all that emitted geometry. Then we'll merge it together with the dot geometry into a switch node, and we'll use this expression. So whenever $f is, whenever its frame is divisible by 3 is equal to 0, so each third frame, it means each third frame it will emit geometry. Okay. So here, rigid body solver, I've enabled aging, and which allows me to use those, which has to be created in order to use those attributes. These attributes in your .NET, which is quite handy. So here I have top spin, and I've created some expression by using the agent life, and this way I can manipulate my spinning. Okay, so it's quite nice to have those attributes, and the rest is the same: ground, gravity, nothing is nothing additional is done in rigid body solver. Okay, and in the end we have our low-res geometry simulation. Okay, and then we're importing our simulation into DOP import, and we would like to have it as a point, so we could copy high-res geometry onto this low-res points. And here I'm using, since we have all the high-res geometry here, I'm using the connectivity and use this class attribute to pack and promote my geometry, so I could copy it onto this point. Okay, I can actually modify it to have. Okay, so as you see, when I'm copying my high-res geometry onto the points, we are kind of we're using the name attribute. Okay, so if I do spreadsheet title name, we have that naming. The same we have here. Okay, so whenever we copy, we activate this name, this attribute, so it knows what copy to what. Okay. So here's my high res, and if I just preview my low res on top of the high res, yeah, so this is a result. So different tasks or conditions may cause some problems on how to solve in a certain situation. So I think this might be one of them. So yeah, so this is all that I'd like to share. with you. As you see, the setup is not that complicated, and the result is quite nice. And yeah, I hope you liked the lesson, and if it was useful, please like and subscribe, and I'll see you in the future lessons. Thank you very much, and goodbye.